What's up, everybody? Sound Author, and as you can see, got the webcam, got the Rode USB NT microphone, so it's a new look and feel for the channel, a little bit more production quality. So, this year, it is all about Diva. I have a new computer now that can stand the CPU load of Diva. And so I can actually use this synth now, and of course with new updates, the CPU load came down a little bit. So my last library last year was Batala, Equinox for Batala, and I'm actually glad that was my last project, because one thing that you might notice in Diva in the modifications tab here is you have these modifiers, and this is very modular. And as I was getting to know Diva for the first time, because like I said, I didn't have a very powerful laptop, and so I was never really able to really get into Diva. But I was looking at the rectifier, multiplier, you can invert, you can lag, you can add signals together. So I was like, this is a lot like the stuff that I was doing in the multiplexer in Batala. So anyways, this is kind of an unusual library. I set out to do kind of the, the classic vintage library like you do in Diva. And there's a lot of classic patches in here, classic vintage patches. Some of those classic sounding pads and stuff. But it took almost kind of a modular turn, because they started to do these generative sequencers. And so as you can see, I use the modifiers. I go into the trimmers tab and I use the voice map modulator. I use the variance controls. A lot of stuff that's overlooked in Diva. And this library turned out sounding very similar to my last project, Equinox for Batala. And so I talk too much during these demos. I'll just shut up and I will get going. So I'm going to start out with the Arps. Usually I start out with the Atmos, but I'm just going to go through the Arps. I'm just going to go from beginning to end. Velocity sensitivity as always, mod wheel aftertouch as always. Okay, that is similar to another one down here called Vintage Octaves. They're kind of similar in the sense that I've used the voice map modulator to kind of cherry pick octaves and fifths. So, same note. Oh, actually, that's the one that goes up, down, down, up. Okay, because I use the alternate modulation source. Because it's generative and it's random and it's all musically correct, but yeah. All right, so I have a number of one-note wonder patches in here, and this is one of them. There's something that you need to know about some of these Arps, and that is that you'll go to the main tab and you'll look and it says poly, right? Oh, poly, that means I can play chords, right? Okay, not with all of them. On some of them, yes. On some of them, no. And I'm about a week from publication. I'm going to publish this on the 1st. But I might include some information in the patch info to let you know when there is a one-note wonder. It might just be in parentheses, one NW. So the reason that it's poly is because I'm using the voice map modulator in such a way, or I'm doing something that requires the patch to be polyphonic. Because if I made this mono, it kind of works, but it needed to be polyphonic. Okay, so yeah, I'll include that in the patch information that it's a one-note wonder. This is like a galloping minor pentatonic scale. It's kind of a weird inversion of a minor pentatonic scale using the same notes, but not in the order that we're used to, because I'm using the quantizer. Unlike the quantizer in Hive, we don't have scales and chords in this quantizer. It's an old school quantizer. Actually, I'm not using it. I'm not using the quantizer for this patch. Maybe for the next patch. I am using the quantizer for the next one. Okay, so okay, that's another one-note wonder. This is something you can play chords with. Okay, so there's something that I noticed when I started going to work in Diva, and that was Diva is actually a pretty good little FM synth. I was not expecting the FM in Diva to sound so good, and it sounds good. There's another patch that uses the modifiers quite extensively. They all live somewhere on the keyboard. They all live somewhere. I'm an octave up, though. Okay. They've all got at least a mod wheel assignment. I tried to fit Aftertouch into everything, but it's not always doable. A lot of people don't have Aftertouch on their controllers, but they should. Okay. Dotted mallets. This is another one-note wonder. Lots of filter ping in this library. Filter ping is by far and large my favorite sound design thing. I just love the sound of it, and I was just blown away when I started to ping these filters. They all ping differently. They all behave differently. And they all have their own behavior when they start to self-oscillate. Like here, the UB filter, you'll notice that the resonance is cranked all the way up because the UB filter doesn't ping very easily. You really got to crank the resonance. Whereas the Cascade filter pings beautifully. This is the Cascade filter, and this one you can play chords with. Very velocity sensitive. I have a lot of very velocity sensitive patches. Basic triads with this one. Aftertouch. I really like the way that vibrato sounds. So love that patch. Leap year. Very full, very fizzy. This is another one where I actually not on this one though. I'll talk about that later. Another method that I used for this library. Another major. In Equinox, I did tons and tons of minor sequences, which is usually my bag. I usually gravitate toward the minor thing, with this library, I thought, let's do some major stuff. There's still plenty of minor things here, but I thought, I need to do a few more major scale oriented things. Okay, major mallets. Stack modulation of the filter cutoff when the filter is self-oscillating, pinging it at the brink of self-oscillation. It has a vocodary sound. Mod wheel. Okay. That stack voice modulation, if you tune it right, okay. So, yeah, I'm using the voice map modulator. You can do beautiful things. Crank that resonance, tune it up, key followed it. Okay, you get this parallel bandpass filter kind of situation happening. So, love it. Neon bubbles. I think always consult the patch description. It's a one-note wonder as well. I love generative things. I found all kinds of ways. I did a lot of research for this library. I've got like quantizer notes that's like a full page of quantizer settings. And there's ways of getting minor scales and major scales in different kinds of ways, and offsetting things with fifths and octaves, all kinds of fun stuff. Here's, I think, another one that's using a highly resonant filter. Oh, I love what aftertouch here. I love what aftertouch does. Mod wheel. It's alive! Yeah, I really, really love that patch. I think you can play this one. Yeah. Very pingy library. There's almost a fantastical element to this library. There's some magical sounds. And like I said, you can always double the ARP clock. If that's not fast enough for you, just double it. Easy fix. We'll get to the atmosphere soon enough. Everybody wants to hear my atmospheres. It's next. Okay. This is a nice minor chord. Got 100 patches to go through, so I can't take forever on everything. I already talked too much. Okay, when in doubt, go to the patch description, play some chords, and have fun. Usually, if you can play chords with something, it says so in the patch description. Aftertouch with vibrato. And up high. Okay, moving right along. Pingdom Come. This is, I think, my favorite pingy patch because it's kind of like mellow and a little bit darker than the rest of the pinged patches. Mod wheel. Okay, love it. Moving right along. Pretty Plucks. Oh, I love the vibrato on this one. With Aftertouch, you got some nice vibrato. Beautiful. This one's a little bit more aggressive. Mod wheel. Almost a bass patch. Gotta have a sync patch in there somewhere, right? This one's very Stranger Thingsy. I did a lot of interesting signal processing in this library. I can't get into it now. I'll have to make I'm going to make some Diva tutorials to share with you the different types of signal processing that I did, but I made a lot of discoveries when I made this library. Love this synth. It's just so good. Oh, I love this. This patch is nice. Just a nice... I think I got some vibrato there, too. Yeah, there it is. So these are pretty sensitive patches. They're very expressive. So sometimes they might seem a bit too quiet, but odds are you're just not playing hard enough. Or there's a very long attack. Some of the pads have a really long attack just because I thought it sounded good that way. I don't know. But everything is around the neighborhood at full velocity. Everything is somewhere around the neighborhood of -8, -9 dB. Coming from Victor from Yuhi. That's where he said he likes his gain staging. And I did some factory patches for Hive, following all the suggestions that he said. And -8, -9, that's kind of where, that's what sounds good to me. Apparently that's what sounds good to him. But yeah, if it's a poly patch and you're playing like 6 notes at full velocity, yeah, you don't want to get too much louder than -8 dB. And that's getting pretty loud. You start to get up to like -6, and that's a little too loud. A lot of people like their patches to just go all the way up to 0 dB. No. When you start mixing and you're using, that doesn't make sense. Okay, you want to bring it down. Just bring it down a bit. Okay. All right, Atmos. Here we go. Ancient Sorcery. Big patch. Aftertouch. I like to open the mod wheel, press down on the aftertouch, and then bring the mod wheel back down. That was the aftertouch. Lots of Atmos. I love Atmos. It's my favorite. Okay, atonalities. This patch sounds a little weird when you first open it up. It sounds like things are kind of adjusting for some reason. See, the patch doesn't sound that way if you leave it open, or if you leave the patch. If you open the patch, it takes a few seconds. Now it's the way it's supposed to sound. I don't know why that is. There's a couple of patches when that it almost sounds like, especially when you're using extreme filter settings, it almost sounds like with the first few notes, like the filter's kind of slowly adjusting or something. I have no idea. As the name suggests, this is a completely atonal patch. It's not musical at all. It's just there to set the atmosphere. Okay? Mod wheel. Aftertouch. I'm doing the same thing. I'm opening the mod wheel and then I'm pushing down on the aftertouch and bringing the mod wheel back down. That's neat. I outdo myself every once in a while. Weird patch. Weird but good. Mod wheel takes this texture and then it becomes this musical thing as you raise the mod wheel. But even with the mod wheel all the way down, Aftertouch has this nice extra octave. So I kind of like to usually have the mod wheel all the way open and then bring the mod wheel down until I get kind of like just the right amount of graininess. It's very unusual, but I love it. I love stuff like that. Children of Earth. It's a combination of mod wheel and Aftertouch. It's just this beautiful texture that just happened. And when you see a sequel patch like this, I did not reverse engineer the patch and just change a few things. That's what a lot of people do. I didn't do that. This is completely made from the ground up. Every patch is. Every single one. Okay? This one is more of a one-note wonder than the first Children of Earth. You get kind of a similar texture out of it. I love the magic that happens at low velocities. Nice. Okay. This was in the pads. I moved it over to Atmos. You can hear some things like these harmonics that are just kind of falling down as you release the note. Okay. A non-musical mod wheel assignment. I just called it Avalanche. Nice. Similar kind of patch. Nice and subtle. This one is weird. Kind of like it. Oh, I was one octave too high anyway. I kind of like the... Sometimes a patch seems quiet until you introduce mod wheel or aftertouch, and that kind of pushes the patch. But hey guys, look, there's an output button up there, and there's an amp knob right here, a volume knob right there in the amplifier section. So if it's not loud enough for you, it's an easy fix. Because the only thing that's modulating the amplifier is either gate or envelope 1, so it's not like you're gonna screw up some modulation or something. So yeah. This is where the patch lives, a little bit up higher. I like to let some patches breathe. Just let it live. Okay. Speaking of just letting it breathe, that's what this patch is all about. Sit back and sip on a nice hot cup of coffee and look out the window. Just listen to all the details in this atmosphere. All these things that happen. I'm holding down the same 3 notes. I'm not doing anything. A little bit of mod wheel. Might be the best patch in the library. Yeah. Just one day, I just was like, an entire evening, I was just playing that patch, and I was just getting lost. I did myself there. Hemispheres. This one has a lot of delay, and what I did is that I kind of fine-tuned the delay time so it creates sort of a big, huge reverb. You'll hear. Mod wheel. I like what Aftertouch does. Jittering spheres. This was a pretty involved experiment with cross modulation. It's kind of unpredictable. You can hold one note down. That's a really... And some of these patches are like that. They kind of have a mind of their own. And you might not get the immediate result that you want, but if you're just patient with it, it'll give you something kind of nice. You know, just tinker around with the aftertouch and with the mod wheel. Something good will happen. Oops, I skipped a patch. Kaleidoscope. This is another pingy thing, I think. Lots of use of the modifiers, almost all of them except rectify, and I really go to town in the modifier section and also in the trimmer section. As you can see, I'm using the voice map modulator, an overlooked modulation source. It's excellent. And Kaleidoscape 2. Like I said, it's not reverse engineered, completely new patch built from the ground up. Aftertouch doubles the LFO speed, so. Okay, Mellowscapes. I think it was the last atmosphere that I made. This one really messes around with note pitch. Sometimes sometimes it's like a fifth below the octave, sometimes it's a fifth above the octave, sometimes it's an octave above the octave. So everything you play will be musically correct. Okay, so it's not like anything that you play is going to be like the wrong note. They'll all be the right notes. It'll just be spread out in a way that you might not have anticipated. But that's kind of the whole point of this library. Surprises, happy accidents, generative elements. Love this patch. Aftertouch. That's why that patch is called that. Ocean Spray. Okay, right along. The pitch wheel actually, you'll notice that the transposition for the pitch wheel is at 0. So is it how am I bending pitch? Well, I'm bending pitch via the wave shaping that is doing the cross modulation for the oscillator 2 and 3. I'm doing it in a really weird way. If you're cross modulating something with a waveform and then you change the wave shape, you change the shape of the waveform that's doing the cross modulation, it bends the pitch in a cool way. Mod wheel. That's aftertouch. It's a bit noisy. So I thought that was neat. Stacked reflections. I love this one. Low velocities sound best. And because of, I think I've used No, I haven't used the voice map modulator. What have I used? I've modulated stack index in an interesting kind of a way. But... oh, I was thinking of another patch. That patch is in the pads section. It's called stacked fifths, I think. Something like that. This is not that patch. Okay, never mind. It's a lot to keep track of. Mod wheel. Very nice. Tamper amp is also pretty nice. Okay. Mod wheel. With aftertouch. Nice. Trickle. Really like this one. I find it works best with low velocities. Gotta love those atonal atmospheres. That was aftertouch, which is the noise. Without the aftertouch. Okay? I love atmospheres. So these are the bass patches. I put that in quotes specifically because I'm not a bass aficionado. I'm not an expert on the matter, and sometimes it shows. Okay, pads and atmospheres and sequences and arpeggios, that's my strength. Bass, it's an area that I need improvement on. I tend to put a lot of delay on my basses, and that's no, you're not supposed to have blah, blah, blah. But even though there is delay on almost all of these bass patches, you will notice that the high-pass filter in the delay is cranked up, okay? Obviously, you don't want to delay all your bass, right? So the stuff that's getting delayed is well beyond 200 hertz, okay? So... I think that sounds awesome, but, you know, maybe some people are like, that's not a bass. I don't know. So... that was aftertouch. It'll get pretty resonant. Okay, Bringer of Doom. That was aftertouch, resonance. Okay. I admit, that's a little bright. A little bright. Okay. Okay, so this one has a delay on it, but it's not a sequence. had a few people who did demo work who prefer it without the delay. Okay. Maybe crank that up. Yeah, the high pass filter and the delay really helps out. Soul Crusher. That octave that you just heard, that's the aftertouch. Okay, Spider Bite. So there really aren't any classic basses that we're used to, so don't expect them here. There aren't any really vintage style basses to be had in this library. That's not what this library is about. Started off kind of weird, but it doesn't stay that way. See, I'm a big fan of low velocities, so I layer things. I layer a lot of stuff. Okay, on to the keys. And most of these are actually bells and mallet kind of sounds. There's a reason why this patch is called draft bells. Now, I made this patch when I was in draft mode, and I really like the way that it sounds up high. Okay, now if you turn it to great mode, which is kind of default, it still sounds okay, but it kind of murdered the character of the patch, so that's the reason that it's called draft bells. Some of these FM patches actually sound better in draft mode. The manual says the FM sounds rough, but sometimes it sounds good, especially up in the high ranges where you want some of that digital harshness. That's not always a bad thing. Okay, Dream Bells. Okay. You can turn the release up. This is another, I believe this is another stack voice, stack index modulation project. It is using the quantizer. So you can't have too much note release. Because if you do, okay, you lose the when the filter's pinging. When you still have voices active, the filter ping kind of goes away. But actually, I kind of like the way that that sounded. So I like how it sounds when it comes back. When it starts to come back. You can hear it. You can hear it come back. Start oscillating the filter. Phase bells. Let's get back to that. Play softly. Low velocities. Magic happens. I was just blown away by the FM in Diva. There's a reason why that patch is called that. Okay, I really like this patch because it kind of has a tongue drum kind of a sound, almost kind of like a hang, and up high. But what this patch really shines is down low, at low velocities. Yet again. That one. Okay, you don't get a lot of leads from me in general, okay? You just don't. There's very few lead sounds that I actually like. Very, very few. And most of the time, it's that Vangelis thing, okay? That just a couple of detuned saw waves fed through a bunch of reverb, and that's the lead sound that I've always loved. I'm not into big, aggressive lead patches. It's just not my bag. I just don't like the sound of them. So this is not a super fancy patch. This is a flute. You hear that filter adjusting? The patch doesn't always sound like that. Some patches just do that for the first few notes that you play. And you hear that filter zapping around, and you're like, why are you doing that? I guess that could have been the glide. It was the glide. Okay, so it wasn't the filter at all. So anyways, this is one of the better leads in the library. Okay. That's more of a bass. Aftertouch combined with the mod wheel. I like that stuff. There's some interesting signal processing going on there. So this one's just kind of quirky. This has more of a classic sound. There's not a whole lot of those vintage patches in here, but there's a couple of them, and that's one of them. Yeah, this one's... It can be quite shrill, this one. Like that one. And this one... Okay, that's like the only lead line that I know. So there is a little DC offset that happens every now and then, and it's not because of it's the way that the signal is shaped with some cross modulation. It's being synced There's a pulse wave that's turned, the width is all the way down. You sync the carrier oscillator, and some wonderful things happen. So. Okay, but there is a little bit of a DC offset thud that happens every now and then because of the way that it's being processed, the way that the waveform is being processed. It doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot. But I did tell you about it here and on the video and in the patch description. There is a bit of a DC offset thing that happens every once in a while. As you can hear, you don't hear it a lot. Okay. Pads. Okay, so I have like 3 big pads: big fizz, big swirl, and big warmth. Okay, and they're not too flashy. They're all kind of standard issue big pads. Okay. This is the most stationary pad in the library. There's something about it that I liked, though. Okay, Classic Alpha. Now this is a classic sounding, old school. Okay. The mod wheel doesn't even do the filter thing. It's old school. It's a vibrato, and the aftertouch does the brilliant. Gotta really. Okay. Some people feel that aftertouch just feels awkward to them, and sometimes when you're using channel aftertouch, sometimes it kind of does. But I've heard good things about poly aftertouch, but that gets a little expensive. This almost went into the Arp section. This is a cool chord in the sense that it actually can be layered with minor patches, and also it can be layered with major patches as well because of everything that's going on. I even said C notes actually play a G minor 7 add 11 chord. I don't even know if that chord formula is correct. I'm pretty sure that's what you would call this chord. This is a little unusual, but it still contains all the notes within the C major scale, and it layers nicely with the patches in a major key, since it would be the 2, 3, or the 6 chords in that scale. But that's also true with the minor chords. It'll gel with the major and the minor chords, and I've layered it with those Arps, those generative Arps, major and minor, and it sounds good in both cases. And so I was like, that's neat. Music theory. Okay. There's almost this formanty thing kind of happening with that patch. Oh, I like this one. This is one of those pads that I was telling you about with a super long attack. Good. Okay. Sometimes my mod wheel assignments are like, you know, the engine under the hood. You don't need all the horsepower, but it's there if you need it. Sometimes I think I go a little too far with that concept. Just some nice movement. Oh, I like this one. I was very sad when I made this pad. I was in a blue mood. I think I was saddened by some of the things in recent news. It's almost an atmosphere. Galaxy's Ledge. Now this one, don't go nuts with polyphony. There are 6 stack voices, so just a couple of notes will do. Try combining the mod wheel and aftertouch, but I think this one, I've done so many things with octaves and fifths that I kind of like to just hold down the root note and either the minor third or the root note and the major third. So okay, that's a major. That's the minor. There's an organy thing that happens when you combine the mod wheel and the aftertouch. Okay. But yeah, like I said, there's 6 stack voices. Which means that just 2 notes are gonna max out your polyphony before you get to your next note. So if you play more than 2 notes, you're gonna experience voice stealing. This is another one-note wonder. Low velocities. That aftertouch assignment is a bit strange. If you really hammer down the aftertouch, it's too much. Gentle, gentle. Okay. Very Blade Runner-y, very. Okay, some dog barking. Sorry about that. And this is a nice pad. Some nice signal processing happening there. The second one is a little bit brighter. Not reverse engineered, it's from the ground up. Now if you played it loud, it'd be too much. Okay. Sometimes you need a bright pad. every once in a while. Not a lot, but every once in a while you just need to... So it's a little bright, but it has a purpose every once in a while. A friend of mine asked me to make him a marcato patch, and it's not something that I do a lot, but this one turned out nicely. Okay. Mod wheel. Okay. All right. So that worked out. It's that Ubi filter, man. It sounds so good. Another big pad. You get some filter resonance with a mod wheel. Oh, some noise with the aftertouch. All right, Neon Voyage. This one I remember is classic, vintage. Sound, man. Octave controls. I don't have the 64 key keyboard anymore. I'm just on my 25 keyboard controller. Okay, 25 keys only. Okay, I found that one is really nice if you just want to kind of drive some melodies. I'm telling you, low velocities, man. That's my bag. Okay, so this is a standard issue, like a big 1.5 power. Power chords. But they become 7 and 9 chords, really. Minor 9, minor 7. And the same thing with the next one. It's like every library I do, especially when it's the first time that I've worked in that synth, I gotta create at least a couple of saw pads. And that's what this one is. One thing I like about this saw pad is I'm using the triple VCO. So you've got 3 detuned oscillators and you've got 3 stack voices for each of them, and everything is exactly equally tuned apart. So it's kind of like old school analog synthesizer behaving like a digital synth. I like it. Sounds right. Okay. Love this pad. This one does the same thing where sometimes it's a okay. If you use the voice modulator, sometimes it's a fifth below the octave, sometimes it's a fifth above. Okay, but everything, it's musically. right? So if you play a minor chord, it'll always be a minor chord. But it'll be this voicing that maybe you're not used to. But that's what I love about it. One of my favorite pads in the library. This one is interesting. Splashes of noise. This layers nicely with the Arps and the perk patches coming up next. Stacked strings. This was the one that I was telling you about. To just play a couple of notes, similar to a pad that I just told you about, just root, minor third, or root, major third. You can even play entire triads with this. This is another one that I like to just let it sit there. See, sometimes the magic starts to happen when you let the patches like this just kind of sit and just. Sometimes you get these interesting chord voicings. Did some really interesting stuff here with the voice map modulator. So I'm just playing a minor chord. But sometimes you're getting these dissonant. I would definitely use this in a film if I was a film composer. If I wanted this just desolate landscape, and I wanted this sense of isolation. That's what I get from that patch. Just one note, really. Sometimes it sounds almost like out of tune violins. I love that. I love that patch. Okay, so this is sometimes you need a pad that just really sweeps the spectrum. That's one of them. Okay. I love this one. But where it really shines. Yeah. Uh-oh, copyright notice. Sorry. You can't do that. You don't have the rights. But anyways, yeah. That's a nice Uberheimish kind of wicked burn. Okay, on to the perk patches. And these are kind of generative. They're not always like straight drum patches, but there's something percussive going on there. So this one actually creates some vinyl crackle. And then it's just kind of like a really brief. That doesn't seem like much, but if you layer that with the other Arps, and it works. It sounds good. So it's a nice little layer piece. And with the mod wheel, You get this kind of this crackly, this, I guess called it baby rattle. Okay, so that doesn't sound like much, but it is an interesting thing to layer with the other patches. I like this one. The attack changes because of the noise. That's the mod wheel. This patch makes me wish there was an EQ in Diva, but there's not, because if there was, I would have put it before the reverb and I would crank those low frequencies. I did use this for a demo that I made. I actually made one of my own demos this time, and I did do some post processing, and I really cranked the low frequencies on this patch. See, the attack is different every time. Sometimes it's really, come on. Sometimes you almost hear no noise, and sometimes you hear a lot. There you go. Hear that? Okay. Comes and goes because of the way that I've modulated everything. But I love that. I love the way that sounds, the mod wheel assignment. Okay. Kicks are for trids. That's the mod wheel. Gives you that kind of snare thing. You'll notice that the kick started to sound different. I even said it in the description. It takes about 10 seconds for the high pass filter to warm up. I don't know what's up with that, but it's true. When you first open the patch, there it is. Okay, I don't know why that is. It's like it has to warm up, and maybe it's because of the low input. Maybe the filter is just because of the low input. The filter just needs to. I don't know. But the longer you use this patch, that's what the kick actually starts to sound like. Okay. Okay, I wasn't able to really go to town with the mod wheel because this patch has got quite a lot of stuff going on. So I ran out of assignments that I could really do anything with. So you just kind of get that. Layers nicely with all the other Arps and stuff. This one's a little bit more aggressive, as the name implies. Same kind of situation with the mod wheel. I really wasn't able to really do something impressive with it. I think that's another one where with the bass drum kind of sound, something going on with the filters where you kind of need to let the patch kind of do its thing for a little while, and then it finally starts to kick in. Octave ping. Play some chords. More filter ping. It's a weird sub-octave. Oh, this one, if you just use the mod wheel almost like a switch and just throw the mod wheel. There you go. Or it can get weird. Sneak Attack. This one contains a hidden major pentatonic arp, which I thought was pretty cool. in there. It's just a pulse wave that opens up slowly. I thought that was neat. Snickety thump. This is another one that the longer that you just kind of let it breathe, you start to vibe with it. Okay, trash bang. This is one of the more aggressive things. But the mod wheel just kind of, mod wheel. Okay, and these patches are the same all across the keyboard. Does not matter. Okay, I've tried to make a few of these percussive patches where it's all tuned, and it's just so weird because you end up in the high ranges, you end up with these high, shrill, zappy kinds of sounds that nobody wants to hear. And then if you go too low, the frequencies get so low that it vanishes from hearing. So I actually prefer these because you can layer them with the other patches and you don't have to worry about pitch changing or anything like that. This is my favorite perk patch in the whole library. It's very 80s. Just a nice pinged filter. And you get a brittle texture when you raise the mod wheel. I've put that on a lot. I've already used this patch quite a lot. Sounds good with like 808 drums and stuff. Okay, that's Third Eye, okay? I wanted to do more than 100 patches, but I'm so obsessive. I did so much research for this library, and it was more work than I had anticipated, but I really, really got into this one. I'm really proud of this library. And that's it, guys. It'll be available on the 1st of the month. So I hope you like it.